The Kinahan-Hutch feud, one of the most violent criminal conflicts in Ireland's recent history, has been marked by periods of extreme violence followed by temporary lulls. The feud began with rapid and brutal bloodletting, notably in the early part of last year, as the conflict escalated sharply. In total, 12 people have been killed as a result of this feud. 2 were murdered in Spain, 1 in County Meath, and 9 in Dublin. The violence has been characterized by its intensity and frequency, with a notable concentration of murders. Specifically, 9 of these killings occurred between February and August of last year, reflecting a particularly bloody period. However, in the 9-12 months following this peak, there have been only 2 additional murders, indicating a temporary reduction in violence. A significant pause in the murders was observed during the latter part of last year. This brief respite was shattered just before Christmas when Noel Kerwin was shot dead outside his partner's house in Clondalkeen, a suburb of Dublin. Kerwin's murder was particularly noteworthy as it marked the end of a 4-month period without any killings related to the feud. The recent killing of Michael Keogh, a 37-year-old father of 2, in Dublin's North Inner City on Wednesday, ended a 5-month murder-free period that followed Kerwin's death. Keogh's murder underscores the ongoing volatility of the feud and the difficulty law enforcement faces in maintaining peace amidst the simmering conflict. The Kinahan-Hutch feud has involved a range of criminal activities beyond the murders, including drug trafficking and organized crime, further complicating efforts to resolve the violence. The Gardaí have been working tirelessly to manage the situation, but the feud continues to pose a significant challenge to law enforcement and community safety. There are increasing concerns that the recent murder of Michael Keogh by the Hutch faction, who was associated with the Kinahan Gang, might escalate the gun violence in the ongoing Kinahan-Hutch feud. How it began. There was a shooting in 2014, but it is generally considered that the feud's origins trace back to September 24, 2015, when Gary Hutch, 34, was killed at an apartment block near Marbella in southern Spain. Hutch was murdered by the Kinahan drugs gang, which he had once been a member of. The Kinahan gang accused him of providing information to the police and attempted to shoot a senior gang member. Gary Hutch's family had been negotiating with Christy Kinahan, the leader of the Kinahan gang, in an effort to save his life. They arranged a payment of $200,000 and were promised that Hutch could return to Spain. However, this agreement was not honored, leading to Hutch's murder. The repercussions of Gary Hutch's murder on September 24, 2015, were felt almost immediately within the Hutch family, intensifying the ongoing Kinahan-Hutch feud. Just 2 weeks after Gary Hutch was killed, his younger brother, Derek Delboy Hutch, became the target of a violent attack. On October 9, 2015, while serving a sentence for murder in Mountjoy Prison, Derek was stabbed in what was clearly a retaliatory attack linked to the escalating feud. The attack on Derek Hutch was not random, but was the result of a calculated move by the Kinahan cartel. Christy Kinahan, the leader of the Kinahan crime organization, had placed a $10,000 bounty on Derek's life, underscoring the ruthlessness with which the Kinahans pursued their vendettas. This bounty was indicative of the severe and personal nature of the feud, where family members of rivals were targeted to send a clear and violent message. Derek Hutch, known as was serving a sentence for a previous murder conviction when the stabbing occurred. The attack happened within the confines of Mountjoy Prison, a facility that, despite its security measures, had been unable to prevent such a high-profile assault. The stabbing was part of the ongoing cycle of retribution between the Hutch and Kinahan factions. Fortunately for Derek, despite the severity of the attack, he survived his injuries. 3 months later, on December 30, 2015, Darren Kearns, 34, from Dublin, was shot dead in a pub car park on Black Horse Avenue, Dublin. Kearns's murder is now believed to be linked to the Kinahan gang. It is suspected that Kearns, along with another criminal, was involved in a failed gun attack against Kinahan gang members in West Dublin a few weeks prior. The feud gained widespread public attention in February 2016 when a killing team attacked a boxing match weigh-in at the Regency Hotel in North Dublin. David Byrne, 35, was shot dead during the attack, though other gang members managed to escape on foot. The incident was captured on mobile phones by attendees and quickly circulated online, bringing the feud into the spotlight and showcasing the brutal nature of the conflict. When the Irish public saw the newspapers the next day, the shock was profound. The front pages were dominated by dramatic images of armed gangsters dressed as a Garda SWAT team, rushing in and out of the Regency Hotel. These unprecedented photos starkly illustrated the horror and audacity of the attack, thrusting it into the midst of the general election campaign. On the day of the attack, photographers were stationed outside the Regency Hotel, anticipating the arrival of known Gangland figures who were expected to attend the weigh-in. Their presence proved fortuitous as the cameras captured the extraordinary and violent scenes that unfolded. The attack's coverage sparked considerable public debate, with many questioning why crime journalists and photographers were present while Gardaí, Irish police, were not conducting surveillance. This was particularly troubling given that prominent Irish drug wholesalers based in Spain were expected to be at the event. The absence of police surveillance raised concerns about the effectiveness of law enforcement in addressing the escalating violence in Dublin's criminal underworld. On May 18, 2016, Patrick Hutch, brother of the slain Gary Hutch, was formally charged with the murder of David Byrne, a high-profile killing that took place during the infamous Regency Hotel attack. This attack, which was a pivotal event in the Kinahan-Hutch feud, had thrust the conflict into the national spotlight. Patrick Hutch was not only charged with murder, but also faced additional charges related to the possession of firearms, marking him as a key figure in the ongoing gangland warfare. Patrick Hutch's trial was set to begin in January 2018 at the Special Criminal Court, a non-jury court reserved for cases involving serious organized crime. Given the severity of the charges and the high-profile nature of the case, Hutch was denied bail, reflecting the court's concerns about the risk of flight or further criminal activity. However, the trial faced significant challenges. On February 20, 2019, the proceedings collapsed after the tragic suicide of Detective Superintendent Colm Fox, the lead investigator in the case. Fox's death raised serious questions about the handling of the investigation, leading to an inquiry by the Garda Síochána Ombudsman Commission to examine the circumstances surrounding his passing and its impact on the case. This event cast a shadow over the prosecution and ultimately contributed to the trial's failure to reach a conclusion. The Kinahan-Hutch feud continued to have ripple effects within the criminal underworld. In October 2020, a 26-year-old member of the Hutch Gang was arrested alongside a known Kulak criminal during an alleged drug handover operation. Garda detectives intercepted the handover and seized over 3 kilograms of cannabis, a significant haul in the ongoing battle against organized crime. Reports suggested that the Kinahan cartel believed this individual was involved in the Regency Hotel attack, further entrenching the animosity between the two factions. The long arm of the law eventually reached Gerry Hutch, a prominent figure within the Hutch crime family and a key suspect in the Regency Hotel shooting. In August 2021, Gerry Hutch was arrested in Spain under a European arrest warrant, highlighting the international dimensions of the feud and the relentless pursuit of justice by Irish authorities. Hutch was extradited to Ireland to stand trial in March and April 2023. However, in a surprising turn of events, Gerry Hutch was acquitted and found not guilty of David Byrne's murder, a verdict that stunned many given the intense focus on his alleged involvement. Despite Hutch's acquittal, the court found Paul Murphy and Jason Bonney guilty of facilitating Byrne's murder, illustrating the complex network of individuals involved in the feud and the legal challenges in prosecuting them. In the aftermath of the Regency Hotel attack on February 5, 2016, the violence between the Kinahan and Hutch gangs quickly escalated. The Regency Hotel attack was a high-profile incident in which several gunmen, disguised as police officers, stormed a boxing weigh-in event, leading to the murder of David Byrne and several injuries. This attack marked a significant intensification of the ongoing feud between the two criminal factions. Just 3 days after the Regency Hotel attack, Eddie Hutch, aged 59, was murdered at his home in Dublin's North Inner City. Eddie Hutch, a brother of Jerry Hutch, known as the Monk, was gunned down in what was widely believed to be a retaliatory act by the Kinahan Gang. His murder was part of a broader wave of attacks targeting the Hutch family, which had become a key focus of the Kinahan Gang's vendetta. The feud, which had already resulted in numerous deaths, saw further bloodshed as the Kinahan Gang continued to target the Hutch faction. By mid-2016, the Kinahan Gang was responsible for the majority of the known killings in the feud. The violence claimed all but 2 of the 12 confirmed lives lost up to that point, including the assassination of Michael Keogh, a close associate of the Hutch family, who was killed in a targeted attack. On March 23, 2016, Noel Dugan, also known as King Size, was shot and killed outside his residence in Ratawath, County Meath. Dugan, aged 55, was a significant figure in the illegal cigarette smuggling trade and a close ally of Jerry Hutch. His murder underscored the feud's impact beyond Dublin and highlighted the Kinahan Gang's determination to eliminate those close to the Hutch family. The violence took a tragic turn with the mistaken killing of Martin O'Rourke on April 14, 2016. O'Rourke, a 24-year-old from Sheriff Street, Dublin 1, was mistakenly identified as a member of the Hutch family and was gunned down. This incident illustrated the increasing chaos and indiscriminate nature of the attacks, reflecting the deepening conflict and the escalating brutality between the two gangs. Throughout 2016, the Kinahan-Hutch feud saw a dramatic escalation in violence. The year was marked by a series of high-profile and brutal killings, which intensified the animosity between the two factions and contributed to an atmosphere of fear and instability across Dublin. The ongoing violence not only drew significant media attention, but also prompted a heightened response from law enforcement agencies as they grappled with the challenges posed by the escalating gang warfare. The feud's impact extended beyond the immediate victims, affecting communities and prompting a broader discussion about organized crime and its repercussions. The Kinahan-Hutch conflict became one of the most notorious examples of gang violence in Ireland, illustrating the severe consequences of criminal rivalries and the lengths to which criminal organizations would go to assert their dominance. On April 25, 2016, the violence in Dublin's Gangland reached a new level of brutality with the assassination of Michael Barr. Barr, aged 35, was a known associate of the Hutch Gang and had connections to dissident Republican groups, adding a layer of political complexity to his criminal affiliations. He was killed inside a crowded pub in Summerhill, Dublin 1, an act that underscored the audacity and escalating violence of the conflict. Barr's murder was particularly significant due to his dual role in both organized crime and dissident Republican activities, making him a high-profile target in the ongoing feud between the Hutch and Kinahan factions. The assassination occurred in a public setting, which heightened the shock and fear among the local community. The public nature of the killing reflected the increasingly brazen tactics employed by both sides in the conflict. Barr's murder did not only represent a personal vendetta, but also served as a stark demonstration of the lengths to which the warring factions were willing to go in their quest for dominance. Just a month later, on May 24, 2016, the violence continued with the murder of Gareth Hutch. Hutch, a 35-year-old member of the Hutch Gang and a cousin of Jerry Hutch, was shot dead on North Cumberland Street, Dublin 1. His murder was widely viewed as a retaliatory act in response to the killing of Michael Barr. The timing and circumstances of Hutch's death suggested that it was a direct response to Barr's assassination, illustrating the cycle of retribution that had become a hallmark of the feud. The killing of Gareth Hutch further intensified the conflict between the Hutch and Kinahan gangs. The pattern of violence during this period followed a grim cycle of retaliation, where each act of violence seemed to provoke further bloodshed. The feud's escalating nature highlighted the dangerous and unstable environment that characterized Dublin's criminal underworld at the time. Investigations into these murders revealed that the feud's violence was not only personal, but also deeply entrenched in the broader struggle for power and influence. The escalating cycle of retaliation contributed to a climate of fear and instability, affecting both the criminal world and the general public. The continued bloodshed underscored the severity of the conflict and the challenges faced by law enforcement in managing and mitigating the impact of the gangland warfare. Notably, a close associate of Michael Keogh, a man with deep connections in Dublin's criminal underworld, met a violent end on May 31, 2017. Keogh, who was linked to the notorious Kinahan cartel, was shot dead while sitting in his car in the underground car park of the apartment complex where he lived on Dorset Street in Dublin's north inner city. His killing added yet another layer of complexity to the already convoluted Kinahan-Hutch feud. Keogh was no stranger to the law. He had previous convictions, including assaulting Gardaí and firearms offenses, and was facing legal issues as recently as 2016 related to a firearms charge. Despite his links to the Kinahan cartel, Keogh was also associated with prominent members of the Hutch Gang, such as Jason Molyneux. His affiliations with multiple criminal factions made him a target and complicated the investigation into his murder. The circumstances surrounding Keogh's death were murky. While it was widely believed that the Kinahan cartel ordered his killing due to his ties with the Hutch Gang, other theories also emerged. Some Gardaí speculated that Keogh's death could have been orchestrated by another criminal gang, or that he may have been set up by those close to him, including Molyneux, as part of the complex web of betrayals that characterized the ongoing feud. By 2021, despite extensive investigations, there was insufficient evidence to conclusively link the Hutch Gang to Keogh's murder. The case highlighted the difficulties law enforcement faced in untangling the intricate and often overlapping relationships within Dublin's criminal underworld. Keogh's death was a stark reminder of the dangerous and treacherous world in which he operated, where allegiances were fluid and life was precarious. His murder remains one of the many unresolved crimes born out of the deadly Kinahan-Hutch feud. On April 4, 2017, a significant operation by the Gardaí's Emergency Response Unit and the Drugs and Organized Crime Bureau resulted in the arrest of 3 individuals with connections to the Kinahan-Hutch feud. This coordinated raid occurred on Blakestown Road in Clonsilla, a suburb of Dublin. The operation led to the apprehension of an Irishman in his 30s, another Irishman aged 58, and a 58-year-old Estonian national named Imre Arakas. The arrests took place at a safe house that was linked to Eric Fowler, a known associate of the Kinahan gang. Fowler, who had a reputation for his involvement in organized crime, was believed to have been instrumental in the operation due to his intimate knowledge of the Kinahan network. However, Fowler's cooperation with law enforcement did not go unnoticed by the criminal factions. His decision to tip off the Gardaí about the safe house and the individuals inside resulted in his betrayal by the Kinahan gang. In December 2018, Fowler was murdered, an act widely interpreted as retribution for his collaboration with the authorities. Imre Arakas, the Estonian national arrested during this operation, was suspected of being a hired hitman brought into Ireland by the Kinahan gang. His role was thought to involve carrying out targeted attacks in the ongoing and violent feud with the Hutch gang. At the time of the raid, Gardaí discovered not only a significant cache of drugs, but also a list of individuals associated with the Hutch gang. This discovery further implicated Arakas and his co-conspirators in the broader context of the conflict and highlighted the gang's efforts to expand their criminal operations and target their rivals. While all 3 men were initially detained following the raid, Imre Arakas faced formal charges, reflecting his central role in the Kinahan gang's violent strategies. The operation was a critical moment in the feud, illustrating the ongoing efforts of law enforcement to disrupt the criminal activities of the gangs involved. The seizure of drugs and the intelligence uncovered during the raid provided valuable insights into the operational dynamics of the Kinahan gang and underscored the intensifying nature of the conflict. The fallout from this operation and the subsequent events, including Fowler's murder, exemplified the dangerous and volatile environment surrounding the Kinahan-Hutch feud. The continued violence and retribution highlighted the complexity of the gangland conflict and the challenges faced by authorities in their efforts to combat organized crime and restore order. On May 10, 2017, James "Mago" Gately, a 29-year-old key associate of Gary Hutch, narrowly escaped an assassination attempt in North Dublin. Gately, who had been living in a state of near-constant mobility between Belfast and Newry, had taken these measures after fleeing his home in Dublin's north inner city. His relocation was driven by the heightened risk posed by the Kinahan Gang, which had been aggressively targeting members of the Hutch faction. On the day of the attack, Gately was in his red Ford Mondeo at the Topaz petrol station located on Clonshaw Road. As he was preparing to refuel, a black Lexus pulled up beside him. Without any prior warning, a lone gunman emerged from the vehicle and opened fire, unloading 5 rounds into Gately's car. Despite the ferocity of the attack, Gately's decision to wear a bulletproof vest played a crucial role in mitigating the impact. The vest successfully absorbed 4 of the bullets, significantly increasing his chances of survival. However, Gately was not entirely unscathed. One of the bullets penetrated the vest and struck him in the jaw, resulting in severe injuries. The attack was not an isolated incident, but rather the second attempt on Gately's life within a 6-month period. This escalation in violence underscored the relentless efforts of the Kinahan Gang to eliminate Gately, who was a significant figure due to his close affiliations with the Hutch family. The assassination attempt on Gately highlighted the ongoing and escalating nature of the Kinahan-Hutch feud. The attempt not only demonstrated the level of danger faced by those involved in the conflict, but also the lengths to which the Kinahan Gang was prepared to go in their pursuit of rivals. Gately's continued survival amidst such attempts was a testament to both the severity of the feud and the high-stakes environment surrounding the individuals involved. The arrest of Imre Arakas and the attempted assassination of James Gately highlight the extreme lengths to which the Kinahan Gang was willing to go to dominate the underworld and eliminate their rivals. Arakas's involvement as a foreign hitman demonstrated the gang's international reach and their determination to continue the feud despite increased Garda scrutiny. The Kinahan-Hutch feud was more than just a series of criminal acts. It was a reflection of deeper issues within organized crime and its impact on communities. The violence had significant social and economic repercussions, affecting local businesses and residents who were caught in the crossfire. The feud's intensity and the retaliatory nature of the killings illustrated the challenges faced by law enforcement in addressing and ultimately resolving organized crime conflicts. David Douglas, aged 55, was shot on July 1, 2016, in the doorway of a shop he owned with his wife on Bridgefoot Street, Dublin. Douglas was a friend of Darren Kearns, who had been murdered by the Kinahan Gang on December 30, 2015. The Kinahan Gang believed that Douglas and Kearns had been involved in a failed gun attack against them in November 2015, leading to Douglas's targeted killing. The escalating violence underscored the feud's brutal nature and the interconnected web of retribution and retaliation that defined the ongoing conflict between these criminal factions. On August 17, 2016, Dublin City Council worker Trevor O'Neill was tragically mistaken for a member of the Hutch family while on vacation with his wife and young children in Majorca. O'Neill was shot dead, a case of mistaken identity that underscored the intense and indiscriminate nature of the feud. From March to August of the previous year, the feud claimed 1 life per month. This pattern was interrupted by a brief lull, which ended with the killing of Noel Kerwin during the Christmas week. Kerwin, although closely associated with the Hutch family, was not an active gang member. His murder was a result of his connections rather than direct involvement in criminal activities. The escalating violence in 2016 highlighted the urgent need for effective law enforcement measures. The Gardaí faced the challenge of not only investigating these high-profile murders, but also trying to prevent further violence and manage the growing public fear. The resources allocated to combating the feud were significant, with increased surveillance and police presence in affected areas. Despite these efforts, the persistent violence demonstrated the depth of the criminal networks involved and the difficulty in curbing their activities. The year 2016 was marked by a significant escalation in the Kinahan-Hutch feud. with murders like those of Michael Barr and Gareth Hutch exacerbating tensions and illustrating the ongoing cycle of violence. The broader implications for communities and the responses from law enforcement were crucial in addressing the complex and violent nature of the feud. The first killing of the new year occurred on Wednesday, reigniting the feud and increasing the urgency of the Garda's response. The Garda focus is now twofold: apprehending Michael Keogh's murderers and managing the heightened tensions resulting from his death. Significant resources have been allocated to policing, particularly in Dublin's north inner city, where the violence has been concentrated. The Garda have achieved notable success in prosecuting suspects, including murder charges, and have made significant seizures of cash and firearms. Despite these efforts, the rival gangs remain well-resourced and patient, continuing to recruit gunmen willing to kill for payment. This persistent threat poses ongoing challenges for law enforcement as they work to bring stability to the troubled regions affected by the feud. On January 26, 2018, the simmering Kinahan-Hutch feud once again spilled into public view, this time near the National Boxing Stadium on Dublin's South Circular Road. A member of the Hutch family was scheduled to compete in a boxing tournament, prompting a heavy Garda presence around the venue. Around 9:45 p.m., as the tournament was underway, a car pulled up near the stadium and gunmen opened fire. The primary target, a man known to Garda E, was hit in the foot as he ran towards Griffith College. A second man, a student who happened to be walking nearby, was injured in the hand. Both men, aged in their 40s and 20s respectively, were rushed to St. James's Hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. Later that evening, 2 cars were found burned out in North Dublin, believed to be the getaway vehicles used in the attack. Just days later, the cycle of violence continued with the murder of Jason Molyneux, a notorious Dublin criminal with a staggering 122 prior convictions. On January 30, 2018, Molyneux was gunned down at the James Larkin House Flats complex on North Strand, close to where he lived. The killing occurred shortly after Molyneux had returned from the wake of his friend, Derek Coakley Hutch, who had been shot dead just 10 days earlier. The 2-man hit team responsible for Molyneux's murder fled the scene in a Renault Kangoo van, which they later attempted to set on fire near the East Link toll bridge. The bloodshed did not end there. On March 10, 2018, Garda E foiled a potential assassination attempt on Patsy Hutch, brother of Jerry Hutch, a key figure in the Hutch crime family. Acting on intelligence, officers arrested 3 men in a van parked at the Belmont Apartments on Gardner Street at around 8 a.m. The men were armed with a submachine gun, an automatic pistol, and a revolver. A 4th man was arrested later in the day, and further searches across Dublin uncovered additional weapons, including a machine gun, another firearm equipped with a silencer, and a significant quantity of ammunition. Garda E believed the men were planning to attack Patsy Hutch, who had already survived at least 3 previous attempts on his life. Despite having no direct involvement in crime, Patsy had become a target due to his family connections and the murder of his son, Gary Hutch, who was killed by the Kinahan cartel in Spain in 2015. Despite repeated warnings from Garda E about threats to his life, Patsy Hutch refused to leave his home. In a chilling turn of events, on the night of March 27, 2018, graffiti appeared on 3 walls in Dublin's north inner city near Patsy Hutch's residence, bearing the ominous message, "Patsy dies, feud ends." Garda E believed this was an attempt to provoke Patsy into leaving his house, where he could then be ambushed. In June 2020, the ongoing Kinahan-Hutch feud saw a significant development as 3 men, Michael Burns, Stephen Curtis, and Ciaran O'Driscoll, were sentenced to a combined total of 19 years in prison for their roles in a foiled plot to murder Patrick "Patsy" Hutch. The trio had been enlisted by the Kinahan Gang, an organization known for its hierarchical structure, with orders coming down from higher-ranking members through encrypted communications. Michael Burns, identified as a key player in the plot, received a 9-year sentence. Burns had taken instructions via an encrypted phone from a figure known only as Suspect Number 1, who played a crucial role in orchestrating the assassination attempt. While Burns was not at the top of the gang's hierarchy, his role was significant. He was a supervisor in the operation, responsible for organizing the cars and phones that would be used by the hit team. His involvement was integral to the plan's execution, though he did not devise the strategy himself. Stephen Curtis, who received a 5-year sentence, played a somewhat limited yet essential role in the plot. He was involved in meetings with the gang members and was responsible for obtaining the phone and SIM cards used by the hit team. Curtis was recorded expressing doubts about continuing his involvement with suspect number 1 and had voiced a desire to exit the gang, indicating his internal conflict about the path he was on. Kieran O'Driscoll, who was also sentenced to 5 years, had a critical role as the lookout. He was tasked with monitoring Patsy Hutch's house and alerting the hit team when Hutch emerged so they could carry out the assassination. O'Driscoll's grandmother lived on Champions Avenue, making his presence in the area seem innocuous and less likely to arouse suspicion. However, his involvement was marked by a level of naivety. He used his own phone during the operation, which ultimately led to his identification by law enforcement. Unlike the others, O'Driscoll did not stand to gain much from the plot. He was merely promised that his drug debt would be cleared in exchange for his participation. The sentencing of these 3 men was a significant victory for law enforcement, as it disrupted a carefully orchestrated attempt on Patsy Hutch's life. The case highlighted the complexity and ruthlessness of the Kinahan gang's operations, as well as the lengths to which they would go to eliminate their enemies. Despite the success in thwarting this particular plot, the feud continued to cast a long shadow over Dublin, with the potential for further violence always looming. On July 16, 2018, the ongoing conflict between the Kinahan and Hutch gangs led to another significant intervention by law enforcement. 2 men, aged 25 and 28, were arrested by the Garda Emergency Response Unit in front of the SuperValu shop on Howth Road in Killester, Dublin. The arrest occurred after Gardaí, acting on intelligence, intercepted the men and discovered a loaded handgun in their vehicle. The 2 men were known to be affiliated with the Kinahan Gang, a notorious criminal organization deeply involved in Dublin's gangland violence. The presence of the loaded firearm indicated that the men were likely on a mission to target a member of the rival Hutch gang, continuing the cycle of retaliation that has characterized the feud. The quick action by the Garda Emergency Response Unit not only prevented a potential attack, but also highlighted the constant vigilance required to manage the ongoing threat posed by both criminal factions. On the night of November 15, 2018, Clive Staunton, a well-known street trader, was brutally murdered outside his home in Leixlip, County Kildare. Staunton, who had spent the evening selling merchandise at the Beggar's Bush Junction before the Ireland vs. Northern Ireland match at Aviva Stadium, left during the game, an unusual departure from his usual routine of selling both before and after matches. Arriving home at around 9:15 p.m., Staunton was ambushed in his driveway. A gunman fired shots through the windscreen and driver's window of his vehicle. Staunton attempted to flee but was fatally shot twice in the head. The assailant fled the scene in a silver-gray Volvo S40, which was later found burnt out in Kilbride, County Wicklow, a common tactic to eliminate forensic evidence. Staunton, originally from the Greek Street Flats in Dublin, had lived in Leixlip for over 20 years. Despite his minor convictions for counterfeiting, Staunton was not involved in serious criminal activity. However, his distant relation to the Hutch family through marriage drew Gardai's attention to a potential link to the ongoing Hutch-Kinahan feud. As of 2022, despite some arrests, no one has been charged in connection with his murder. On December 22, 2018, Eric Fowler, a 34-year-old man with ties to local criminal networks, was gunned down outside his home at Blakestown Cottages in Clonzilla. The murder occurred exactly 2 years after the killing of Noel Kerwin, another victim of the gangland violence that has plagued Dublin. Fowler was ambushed by 2 gunmen as he was locking his car. Despite attempting to escape, he was shot multiple times in the head and collapsed at the side of his house. The attackers fled the scene in a silver Volkswagen Jetta, which was later found burnt out at Roshini Green in Cloney. Fowler had been previously warned by Gardai about a credible threat to his life, but despite the warning, he was unable to evade his killers. Gardai have explored various lines of inquiry, including the possibility that Fowler's murder was connected to local feuds in Finglas and Blanchardstown, or the broader Kinahan-Hutch feud. As of July 2022, no one has been charged in connection with Fowler's murder. On March 6, 2019, 24-year-old Lee Boylan was critically injured in a shooting on Blakestown Road in Clonsilla, the same area where his friend Eric Fowler had been murdered just over 2 months earlier. Boylan was driving a van when he was shot 3 times. The assailants used a BMW 3 Series as their getaway vehicle, which was later found burnt out on nearby Sadler's Drive. Boylan, an associate of the Kinahan cartel, survived the attack but was left with life-changing injuries. The investigation into Boylan's shooting remains complex, as it is unclear whether the attack was orchestrated by the Kinahan cartel or if the Hutch gang was behind it. The getaway driver, Alan Graham, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role in the crime. Graham had previously served 10 years in jail after being caught with $750,000 worth of cocaine and $200,000 in cash in 2010. The attack on Boylan highlights the relentless cycle of violence associated with Dublin's Gangland feuds, where even those who survive are often left with lasting scars. The Kinahan-Hutch feud, characterized by its brutal and relentless violence, has had far-reaching effects on Dublin and beyond. The feud not only involves targeted killings, but has also inflicted collateral damage on innocent people caught in the crossfire. The murder of Trevor O'Neill, an innocent family man, highlighted the extent of the feud's indiscriminate nature and the risks faced by those who might be mistakenly identified as targets. The Garda's strategic response to the feud has included a substantial increase in street patrols, heightened surveillance, and enhanced coordination among various law enforcement agencies. Their efforts are aimed at dismantling the criminal networks involved and curbing the cycle of violence. Special task forces have been deployed to focus on known hotspots and to prevent further retaliatory attacks. However, the gangs involved are equally strategic and resourceful. They operate with a high level of organization and financial backing, which allows them to sustain their operations despite law enforcement pressures. The feud has revealed deep-seated issues within criminal organizations, such as betrayal, retribution, and the constant struggle for dominance. The impact on local communities has been profound. Areas affected by the violence have experienced increased fear and insecurity, with businesses and residents grappling with the disruptions caused by the conflict. The constant threat of violence has strained community relations and hindered daily life, contributing to a broader sense of unease. As the feud continues, the Garda's approach must adapt to the evolving tactics of the gangs. Continued efforts to enhance intelligence gathering, strengthen community relations, and develop proactive crime prevention strategies are essential. Collaboration with international law enforcement agencies, given the cross-border elements of the feud, will also be crucial in addressing the broader criminal network involved. Public awareness and support are vital components in the fight against organized crime. Community engagement initiatives aimed at educating the public and encouraging cooperation with law enforcement can play a significant role in disrupting criminal activities and fostering a safer environment. Ultimately, the Kinahan-Hutch feud serves as a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges associated with tackling organized crime. The commitment of law enforcement, the resilience of affected communities, and the ongoing pursuit of justice will be key factors in resolving the conflict and restoring peace to the regions impacted by this violent feud.